Welcome, music fans of the internet. I'm Derek.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are last week's album. We're talking about good music. And we also drink beer. So let's start with that second one. Cheers, Kevin.
And we also drink beer. That's not part of our official intro. Cheers, Derek, and everyone at home.
Cheers to improvising and falling on your face sometimes and not pulling it off. With that being said, what a segue into Turn Blue by the Black Keys, which we will be discussing today. The Black Keys, if you are not familiar, are a duo out of Akron, Ohio, Dan Auerbach and Patrick Carney. This is their 8th studio album, 4th with Danger Mouse at the helm. Although, as Kevin has pointed out to me, and potentially in some of our reviews, Dan Auerbach has been producing seemingly everything. Valerie June, who we reviewed last year, Nikki Lane, Ray LaMontagne of late. And Kevin, before you even ask, yes, Dan Auerbach did co-produce his own album. So he's not resting on his laurels. Keeping it up, and not only musically, but behind the soundboard. I guess the only other side note I might have here, which also comes across on the album, lyrically and other ways, Auerbach also kind of went through a ugly public divorce. So there's that. So Kevin, why don't you start us off and tell us what you think Turn Blue sounds like?
Sure, but before I tell you what it sounds like, I just want to point out that it looks like the shirt you're wearing today.
Kevin, I mean, that's our theme for today, like, dress like the album cover Tuesday, right?
You didn't send me that memo, so thanks for leaving me out in the cold, but I appreciate the effort. I like it. All right, sounds like, before we digress any further, I think Turn Blue by the Black Keys sounds like the Black Keys follow Danger Mouse into outer space on cruise control and get lost in the Milky Way. What do you think it sounds like, Derek?
Kevin, I think Turn Blue sounds like the Black Keys traded in the El Camino for a family minivan, only to come home in said minivan to find your wife with another man, and then returning the minivan to the dealership only to find out all sales are final, and now you're single and stuck with the minivan. I don't know if it could get any worse than that. But it gets better with key tracks. Kevin, what did you have?
Very nice segue, Derek. You're nailing the improvisation tonight. For key tracks, Derek, I've got In Time, and It's Up to You Now. What about you?
I went, strangely enough, with album opener Weight of Love and album closer Gotta Get Away. So I guess I'll kick us off with Weight of Love, which is a nearly 7-minute, 7 minutes in duration here. Opens with some strummed acoustics, some ambient whirring sounds, xylophones, then introduce this electric guitar, which produces a number of solos, which become kind of the focus of a lot of the song. Although there's some raging guitar solos throughout, this song really ebbs and flows instrumentally. When it opens up to the verses, it's this very sparse sound driven by synths, drums, and a groovy bass line, ultimately building to just crashing waves of sound led by just this wailing electric guitar solo. You don't often find 7-minute album openers, but you do here, and it works. So why don't you tell us about your first key track?
Sure. In Time is what I'm going with for my first, and I liked it because it's got these soulful horns, really groovy bass, falsetto vocals, which is, pretty standard fare for the Black Keys these days. And I really love this sort of Middle Eastern guitar line hook that you hear sort of throughout the song. I keep expecting a belly dancer to just appear out of nowhere every time I'm listening to this song, which is a nice thought. And the chorus is, I think, all out Danger Mouse. You can tell he was not so light-handed here. And for me, it was awesome. I think it's the first time he's gotten this groovy since he parted ways with CeeLo back on Gnarls Barkley. And later you get this scorching solo, bouncing synths. And for me, the best mix this song is of Danger Mouse and Black Keys. So that's why I'm digging it. Derek, what was your next one? I think it was the last one.
Yeah, that's right. And, oddly enough, we go from a song that's the fingerprints of Danger Mouse are all over to a song where Danger Mouse's fingerprints cannot be found at all. Gotta Get Away, I thought, had this kind of southern rock vibe to it, a driving electric guitar, some organs and drums just create an amazingly catchy and upbeat sound. The chorus is just a group vocal thing, which is really catchy and have you humming along before you realize too long. And I just thought it was a nice, upbeat way to close out the album, which at times was emotionally tense, I guess you could say. So, Kevin, why don't you tell us about your next one?
Yeah, I actually really dug that last one, too, just because it stood out next to everything else so much. But for my next key track, It's Up to You Now. This is probably my favorite track on the album. It's got this tribal beat intro, tambourine hits, and chugging guitar. Spooky backing vocals, which I'm guessing are Danger Mouse's influence. Sounds a lot like him. And then it chills out for this blistering, really strung out guitar solo that is epic. And shifts back into the sort of jumpy overall feel of the song just for a split second, and then slowly fades out, kind of strung out again. And for me, it's just kind of classic Black Keys, just that jumpy, jittery, upbeat rock and roll that they are known for and do so well. So that's why I dug it. Best lyric.
Yeah, that was a good one. All right, best lyric. Kevin, while you're finishing your sip of beer there, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Mine is from the song called In Our Prime, and it goes, pour me down the drain, I disappear, like every honest thing I used to hear. And Dan Auerbach doesn't normally get very poetic. I think this might be the most poetic line I've ever heard him say, and I really liked it for that reason. Normally it's usually light and easy on the lyrics, but this one was kind of deep, so I dug it. What about you, Derek?
Yeah, Kevin, mine also a little deep and a little bit of change of direction from your previous Black Keys lyrics. This one comes from Weight of Love. Dance all night because people, they don't want to be lonely, never want to be lonely, they don't want to be an only one. Once again, kind of a hint of poeticism there. But at the same time, I thought you really encapsulated kind of the vibe of this album of being heard, venturing out alone, and all that. Which brings us to overall rating. So, Kevin, what do you think overall of Turn Blue here?
This kind of hurts me to say, but I'm giving it a 2 out of 5. Low, but I have high hopes for the Black Keys. I'm a really big fan, and this one for me didn't do it. It did get better as the album plays on. I liked a lot of later songs better than the earlier ones. I thought Danger Mouse was pretty heavy-handed here, and for me, I don't know, it just feels too Broken Bells, too Danger Mouse. I don't know, I wasn't feeling it, and overall I just felt it was lacking some sort of passion and felt sort of uninspired, despite the context behind this album. And, I respect him for taking chances and mixing up the formula, but in a lot of places it just wasn't very interesting or exciting to me. I think they could have done much better, and I'm sure they probably will in the future. I hope so. Derek, what do you think?
Yeah, Kevin, I'm giving this a 3 out of 5 for a lot of the same reasons. High hopes, just being a longtime Black Keys fan. But at the same time, I thought, I totally agree with you on your points of, Danger Mouse's influences being very present at times. I thought I heard echoes of Rome, with Jack White, from a couple of years ago. Some of those intros and some of the strings in there just really brought that to mind for me. However, I think, they did Black Keys overall kind of ventured away from their classic, just bluesy rock sound, but I thought they kind of expanded into some areas and really kind of experimented with some stuff. And not only to mention, I think you could venture out on a limb here to say there was some catharsis involved on behalf of Auerbach. So I think it was probably good for him to get this one out of the way and get back to doing some bluesy rock and roll and all that. So there you have it, a 2 out of 5 and a 3 out of 5 from Kevin and I. But that should not dissuade you from turning blue yourself and checking out this new Black Keys album. Once again, thank you for joining us here at last week's album. Don't forget to join us again next week where we'll be talking about good music, and subscribing to our shiz so you can keep up with the Joneses, that being Kevin and I, although we've never been referred to in the Jones in that sort of context before, so there's that. Thanks again. Cheers, everyone. Cheers, Kevin.
Cheers, Derek. See you next week, guys.